time to do a little bit of commentary on randomizing maps in a TTRPG. To be honest, a lot of the time it's incredibly simple what you want to do. Like, hey, here's a tower, sketch out a tower. Like, this one in this game it always looks exactly the same, which also means that as soon as players see it, they know exactly where they're going. This room, it's always exactly the same. It's a very simple, boring room. So simple and boring that having variations would be a waste of time. And this map here, each of these is composed of tiles, like this here. That is one tile. This is one tile. This is one tile. This is one tile. Here, 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 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, this map is composed of 8 tiles. And to be honest, most of the tiles that are in these maps are kind of boring. But like this one here. This one, this particular tile always has a flaming star in it. Also, it always has 3 exits. And never on this wall. Always the other 3 walls. And so on. Like, there's several variations. Like, certain rooms will have objects in them for loot. There's a few different variations of the entrance exits. Like, here's an exit that's not directly in the wall of the room. It's like a little ways off the side. Here we have a room that always has several caskets in it for you to loot. Usually some enemies, but quite frankly, it's like the number of enemies per tile is largely random. Here is something that it's not a real room in the sense that most people would normally think of. It's the end of a hallway, but it usually has a treasure chest here. You, as the person who is doing this in a TTRPG, though, players go in the room, they look around. You don't tell them that there's a treasure chest in the corner when they walk into the room. No, 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 no. You let them know that you let them search the room, and then when they search the room, they might find the treasure chest. A lot of these, though, like, hey, here's a room. Oh, well, nothing to see here. Moving on. And that's one of those things where players aren't really sure what exactly the where the loot is. They have reason to um, look around a bit more. Enjoy the scenery, perhaps. Like I said, most of these tiles are actually very simple ones. So, and of course, in TTRPG, you are free to make up with whatever you want to use for the map tiles. So whatever fits this. I chose the tower cellar as an example because of the fact that it's so simple. Like, each floor has like 7 or 8 tiles used for the map, and they're relatively small tiles. So it's a quick, easy example. Like this one here, another one of those things that's a long hallway, and you had one of those like ending alcoves with a box in it. Like, there's several variations of stuff like that. And the thing is, though, is that when you have the big main event room, that is something very different. This only has 2 very minor variations of it, which are basically just facing left, facing right. And, the boss spawns here. But if it's a TTRPG, you could set it so that the boss is actually either patrolling the area or just randomly located in one of the side rooms. I mean, because like these side rooms here, maybe you could have the boss in one of these and not over here. Okay, the way Diablo 2 works, boss spawn points are actually static, so you always know where the boss is going to spawn. Which means, in this case, I can actually snipe the boss from outside the room, because she won't leave it, because video game logic. However, TTRPG doesn't have that limitation. Go hog wild with that. Wherever you want the boss to be. I mean, you could have the boss just stand right here, if you want to. You could have the boss stand right here and snipe the party as soon as they enter the room. I actually have seen a random case of a group of unique monsters standing here because the boss isn't the only enemy in here. Yeah, that's fun. Anyway, so this quick, simple example to Utkole and the sewers of Utkole. Oh yeah, while we're here, river asset. This is actually randomly placed. It's actually not particularly common even for there to be a river directly adjacent to the rogue encampment. Sometimes there is. Usually there's not. Which side of the rogue encampment is the entrance is also completely random. But having a river on it is, again, it's random. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I mean, it's purely aesthetic, though. It doesn't really change it. And that is part of the thing with randomness in TTRPGs, is that a lot of the randomness that you see in video games is largely aesthetic. It looks different. What you see when you get to the map is different. But it's just a room with a door. Yes, it looks slightly different than the other room with a door, but it's still a room with a door. Like this one here. This is a much larger map. And at first glance, it looks more complicated and so on and so forth. Then, when you pay close attention, you realize something. It is also made out of rooms. The rooms are a bit larger. Like here, this is the hallway connector between two of the rooms. This is a hallway connector. This is a hallway connector. Here we have the exit going down a level. Hallway connector, hallway connector. See, with this, what they did is they made it so that the rooms had internal complexity. It's still randomly choosing rooms out of a bin, but these rooms, since they have a little bit of internal complexity to them, they look more interesting to your eye. You don't realize at first glance that it's a set of pre-made tiles slapped down and randomly organized. You just don't immediately think of that. You have to look at it for a while and then eventually realize that. Also, another thing they did with these is that the entrances and exits are offset. They're not in the middle, they're off to the side. Granted, they're always off to the same side. But, you know, and also they make the zigzag thing because, like, see, because like it's off to the side, but it's not all the way up the corner. Then they have the pathway through here all the way off to the side. And then you have this here, which is just like a super, super narrow thing that you can climb through. But, hey, a one block wide thing, barely wide enough for one person to walk through. Hey, it's a thing you can walk through. Have fun with that. Be quite honest, that's actually one of the things that makes this different from the Tower Cellar, is that this has very variable widths of walkways. Like it might be a big old 4 block wide walkway, or it might not. Because like this is actually just a walkway. This isn't actually a proper road. It's just a wide walkway. That's something like 3 or 4 blocks wide. And then there's this, which could go somewhere. These actually can go somewhere, depending on which tiles get randomly slapped together. Those little spiky things might actually connect to a different tile if there's something appropriate for them to connect to. Like, see, like how this tile here has something that's like way off to the side here. Yeah, maybe like this here. Like this is actually two different tiles matched up with each other to connect like that. It's one of those like random things. Like sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. This time it didn't. And yeah. Anyway, though, that's something that I thought would be a nice example, though, because like the Tower Cellar has a different theme than this area here. Both of them are just, a bunch of tunnels buried deep underground that you're searching through, looking for loot and quest objectives and so on and so forth. However, they don't look the same. I mean, they have a stone floor, but this one's a tan stone floor. It looks kind of like sandstone. The other one is something gray, different kind of stone completely. And of course, the architectural style. These have curved vaulted arches holding up the roof. And these don't have those coffin slots along the walls. These actually have metal rings embedded and round pillars. And the other one, okay, it had pillars, but they were constructed different. Yeah, well, also, it's like this is supposed to be sewers, so when you look at the side here, it has like flowing water. That's a design feature. This here, flowing water, because it's supposed to be a sewer. Realistically, the amount of floor space in here doesn't make sense for a sewer, but some places the sewers are really more for like storm drain kind of stuff, so they want there to be room for having a large amount of water go in. And this one also is that due to the fact that it's fundamentally so much larger, the actual path layout ends up being much more complicated due to size, not due to the fact that it's actually fundamentally more interesting. I mean, okay, it is a little bit. Each of the tiles here is not just a box with an entrance and an exit. And it's like we saw with like the flaming star thing, but like most of those, okay, what is in? You enter the room, you look at what's in the room. Sometimes what's in the room is interesting. Then you move on to the next room after you've looted it. Here, okay, we have a special map symbol because there is a quest objective over here. But you, as the player, aren't going to you'll find that when you get there and find Radamant waiting to kill you because that's what Unravelers do. Because he's a boss monster, you know. Anyway, though, that's about that. Aesthetics are really, really important when you describe how the level looks. Like this one. I wouldn't describe this one as having coffins everywhere because it's supposed to be a sewer. I mean, like, yes, you can find skeletons in here, but they're not buried here. No, no, no. These are the remains of people who got killed down here, not people who were buried here. And that's a very important difference in terms of describing the location. It's because, like, the actual, like, mechanism of having a bunch of cards and like shuffling a deck of 3x5 cards and pulling 3x5 cards out of the deck to decide where the pathways are going to go. Hey, you know what? It works as a method of randomization. It does. But how you describe those things that you pulled out of the deck determines what the players see the map as. And that description, that's actually the majority of what the players experience in terms of the description of how they see the place. I mean, sure, you can draw a sketch on paper, but you need an incredibly detailed sketch for players to actually see, by any real meaning of the word, what the place looks like. So you end up with a description of it. Like here, kind of crumbling sandstone walls, arch ceiling, and so on and so forth. Have a few flickering torches scattered here and there, but mostly the place is dark. Well, oh yeah, like this here. This was talking about like storm drain stuff. It's like You have water getting in the room, and it starts going over a certain height. Then it goes down this hole. Oh yeah, one minor amusing note is that if you look here at these things on the side, all of them go downward, like this way or that way, just for consistency. That way, the people who put this together don't need to worry about matching the direction of water in individual tiles. They just throw the tiles that have water in them, and the water always matches up because that's just how the tiles are set up. Because like that's one of the most important things with randomization. You don't want to go full nonsense randomization. Going full nonsense makes it hard for you to get the players to enjoy the story because of the fact that they're distracted trying to make sense of the map. Or they just skip the whole concept of making sense of the map. Then the map might as well not even be there because they're not paying attention to its existence. I'm actually surprised I missed so much loot here. But like this here, this is not random nonsense. It's a core part of this particular room setup. Like this looks like someone's doing some sort of a ritual sacrifice of a cow. Why? Good question. If you look closely, you'll notice a bunch of skulls here, so it suggests maybe they've been doing ritual sacrifice of humans too. Why? Hey, you know what? They're evil undead. Well, actually, this map also has marauder enemies in it, and the marauder enemies are not undead. The marauder enemies are exactly the kind of enemy factions where you would expect them to have ulterior motives and dark plans and so on and so forth. And that's how. Because like the basic gist of randomization is simply making it interesting. Randomization isn't fundamentally the core mechanic of making a map. The core mechanic is you, the GM, decide what you want the map to be, and in order to make the map less predictable, you have random elements to it. You don't, but that's also part of the reason why you don't go full random, is that going full random impedes your ability to use the map to tell a story. And telling a story, well, I mean, somewhere in here is Radamant. He's not a particularly deadly boss monster, but he's literally the first time you encounter that particular enemy type. And if you're unfamiliar with dealing with a unraveler, hey, he might actually beat you. Unravelers are actually one of the more interesting enemy types in the game. They spawn in very small numbers, surrounded by a pack of lesser. And, you know, so on and so forth. Storytelling, yeah, this is an area full of undead, but not everything down here is undead. Radamant, however, is very much undead. I missed that too. Whatever. Anyway, though, aesthetic storytelling, like I said, is that you have the map cards that give you room shapes and what maybe like random ideas as to what to have in the room. Like this is a room with loot. This is a room that doesn't have loot. This is a room that has a shrine in the middle because logic and reasons. That is actually a thing though. Is that the room tiles in here that have shrines? That is something I left out earlier. Is that you notice here? Here's a shrine in this one that's an intersection with four paths going up. Here's a shrine in another one where there's four paths going in and out of this room, but there's also this thing in the middle of it that makes it so that the shrine's not just sitting in the middle of it. But look here, this is exactly the same layout with the shrine in exactly the same place. Why? Because the shrine is in fact part of that particular map type. Every time the game puts down that map tile, it puts down a shrine. The nature of the shrine is random, but the fact that there's a shrine there mm, is part of that particular of using that particular room tile. Really? Another corpse? Whatever. Anyway, though. All right, I'm going to call it here. I think that's been enough fun examining this idea. See you guys next time.